You learned to stay quiet before you learned to speak, not because you had nothing to say, but because speaking didn't change anything. So you watched instead. You adapted. You became easy. And somewhere inside you, a voice went missing. Now you struggle to know what you want. You overthink simple decisions. You say it's fine when it isn't. You replay conversations later. You feel unseen, even when loved, and you can't explain why. That's where this story begins. When a child's emotions aren't mirrored, the brain makes a decision, not consciously, but biologically. It decides expression is unsafe or useless, and it reorganizes around survival. This is not weakness. Imagine a microphone that was never turned on. The child speaks, no response, no validation, no correction, just silence. Eventually, the brain lowers the volume itself. Psychologists call this emotional inhibition, but underneath the term is something simple. Your nervous system optimized for safety. If emotion didn't lead to comfort, it learned to conserve energy. Why signal distress? If no one comes? Empty room with sunlight. The room is quiet. The child feels something, but nothing in the environment moves toward them. The brain notices this pattern, and patterns shape wiring, especially early wiring. Attachment research shows that children calibrate their emotional expression based on caregiver response. Responsive parent, louder signals. Unresponsive parent, quieter signals. It's not personality, it's conditioning. This is the first open loop. If the brain learned to lower your voice, what happens when you grow up? Does it simply turn back on? Or does it follow you into adulthood? Unchanged? In adulthood, it becomes subtle. You struggle to assert boundaries. You wait for others to choose the restaurant. You apologize before speaking. You ask, is that okay? Even when it should be. You minimize yourself automatically. This links to something called self-concept clarity. When your feelings were ignored, you had fewer chances to map them accurately. And the brain builds identity from repeated emotional reflection. No reflection, no clear map. Notebook with one sentence written. Imagine identity as a notebook. Each time a caregiver says, I see you're sad, a sentence gets written. Over time, it forms a story. If no one writes back, the pages stay blank. So you grow up guessing. Am I too much? Am I too sensitive? Am I dramatic? Without early calibration, the brain relies on external cues. And that makes you adaptable, but unstable. This adaptability feels like empathy. And sometimes it is. But often it's hypervigilance. The brain scanning others to decide how to behave. A survival strategy disguised as kindness. Abstract brain animation. Neuroscience shows the amygdala becomes more reactive. When emotional safety was inconsistent, the prefrontal cortex tries to regulate, but early wiring sets thresholds. You feel before you think. This creates a pattern. You suppress your emotion. To avoid conflict, the amygdala relaxes temporarily. The brain interprets that as success. Avoidance gets reinforced, and the silence deepens. Here's the part no one told you. Your silence wasn't passivity. It was efficiency. The brain prefers low-cost strategies. If expression cost rejection, it became expensive, so you optimized for acceptance. Person walking alone at night. But optimization has consequences. You become agreeable, low maintenance, reliable, and internally resentful, because the voice still exists. This is the second open loop. If the voice never disappeared, where did it go? Did it dissolve? Or did it go underground, waiting for permission? It went inward. When expression is unsafe, emotion turns into rumination. Instead of saying, "Us, that hurt," you replay it privately. Cognitive science calls this internalization. The energy stays in the system. Rumination activates the default mode network, the brain's self-referential circuit. It loops through memory, reconstructs conversations, searches for meaning. Without external correction, the loop tightens. Slow-moving light patterns. Think of your mind like a river. When blocked externally, water doesn't disappear. It pools. It deepens. Sometimes it floods. Sometimes it stagnates. 22 scene. So what happens next? You attract relationships where you are the listener, the supporter, the steady one, because your brain knows that role. It feels familiar. Familiarity equals safety to the nervous system, even if it hurts. The brain values predictability over happiness. That's how conditioning works. Safety first, fulfillment second. This doesn't mean you are broken. It means your brain adapted early. And adaptations become traits. Quiet, independent, self-sufficient. But underneath that independence is a child who never tested their volume. Reframing matters here, because shame blocks learning. When you see this as damage, your brain defends. When you see it as adaptation, your brain becomes curious. Curiosity opens plasticity. Neuroplasticity requires safety and repetition. The same way silence was learned, expression must now be practiced, but slowly. Because the nervous system still remembers. the old cost. Waves moving slowly. Think of your voice like a muscle that atrophied, not gone, just unused. Muscles grow with small, repeated strain, not sudden force. Now we move into practice, not motivational advice, but behavioral rewiring. Each step targets a specific neural pattern, and each works for a reason. Step 1. Name one feeling per day, out loud or written. Why it works. Labeling emotion activates the prefrontal cortex and calms the amygdala. It shifts you from reaction to regulation. Example, instead of "I'm fine," you write, "I felt overlooked today." That single sentence begins rewriting the notebook. The brain records it. Identity gains data. Step 2. Practice micro-boundaries. Not dramatic confrontations, just small preferences. I'd prefer coffee. I need 10 minutes. Why it works. Exposure reduces threat response. Each successful boundary teaches the amygdala that expression doesn't equal rejection. Prediction error occurs. The brain updates its model. This is learning at the neural level. Step 3. Slow down your response time. When asked a question, pause before answering. Why it works. It interrupts automatic compliance. It gives the prefrontal cortex time to engage. Example, someone asks, "Can you help tonight?" Instead of instant yes, you say, "Let me think." That pause is neural retraining. Silence used differently. Step 4. Find one safe witness, a friend, a journal, a therapist. Why it works. Co-regulation rewires attachment pathways. The nervous system learns that emotion can be received. Attachment circuits remain plastic throughout life. When someone responds, "I hear you," oxytocin increases. Safety signals strengthen. Old wiring softens. Step 5. Reduce self-criticism language. Replace "I'm dramatic" with "I'm learning." Why it works. Self-talk shapes neural pruning. Repeated criticism strengthens threat networks. Compassion activates caregiving systems in the brain, the same systems that were underused early on. You become the responder you didn't have. Abstract brain animation. Integration is simple. Your inner child didn't disappear. The microphone was lowered. The wiring optimized for quiet. Now you're adjusting volume with intention. One mental model to remember. Volume equals safety. If safety increases, volume rises naturally. You don't force expression. You cultivate safety. Inside and outside. Safety is built through repetition, through small boundaries, through accurate labeling, through one person listening, through kinder self-talk. It compounds quietly. You won't become loud overnight. That isn't the goal. The goal is alignment, where what you feel matches what you express. Even softly, especially softly. Empty room with sunlight. Imagine that room again. The child speaks. This time someone answers. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's someone else. But the silence changes. The voice doesn't need to shout. It only needs to be heard. Once consistently, neural pathways strengthen. With use, the notebook fills. The river moves again. The final open loop closes here. What happens next? Not transformation. Not reinvention, just gradual integration. The voice joins your decisions. You choose a restaurant. Without overthinking, you say no. Without spiraling, you feel anger without shame. Small shifts. And one day, you notice something subtle. You don't feel invisible anymore. Not because others changed, but because you stopped muting yourself. Waves moving slowly. The inner child never left. It waited for safety, for repetition, for acknowledgement. Now the microphone is yours, and you decide the volume.